Hello, Algebra 2 students, and welcome to the final lesson of Chapter 1. We're already there. So this section is Lesson 1-6, and today we're going to be looking at solving absolute value equations. So again, the progression through our lesson, we talked a little bit about sets of numbers at the beginning. Then we went to expressions and being able to simplify expressions. Then from simplifying expressions, we went to solving equations. Then from equations, we went to inequalities. And now we're just going to go back to solving absolute value equations again and talk about absolute value and add that concept into the equations. So if we take a look, first off, just a little bit some notes about that. Okay. First off, what does taking the absolute value of a number actually mean? Hopefully you remember this a little bit. I know some people would probably think right away, well, I know that it's always positive. I know this, I know that. Well, here's the reasoning behind it. It is the absolute value of a number is the distance from 0. It is the distance away from 0. And so the reason that it is always positive is because we're talking about a distance. So if we're thinking about like we're on a number line, if you're at -7 on a number line, that means you are 7 units away from 0. Okay? And if you're 7 units away, that's your absolute value of that number, okay? Even though you're on the negative side, you're still a positive distance from 0, okay? If you think about when you're driving a car, for example, if you're going in reverse, it doesn't mean that you're going a negative distance, it just means you're going a different direction. So even that distance would be positive. So that's the idea. Absolute value is the distance from 0. So if we use that to be able to identify what x would equal, if we think about the number line, and that's what we're going to think a lot about, this is why this came right after inequalities, is because we're going to refer back to a number line quite a bit. If we use that, the absolute value of x is saying what numbers are a distance of 4 away from 0 on a number line. And so that would be -4 and +4. That's where we get our two answers. So not only do we always have positive answers, we always will almost always will have two answers to our problem because of the fact that we have two numbers that are equally distant from 0 on a number line. So then if we think about this, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and actually just solve this equation. Okay, so that means 2x minus 8, just a basic algebra 1 equation. We add the 8 over, which means I get 2x equal to 12. And then I divide both sides by 2, therefore x equals 6. Okay? And so there's your answer for that equation. So if you think about that, and now we add it to the idea, would we get the same answer if I put that 2x minus 8 in an absolute value? Okay? And that's the question. If I now add the absolute value to that, would I get the exact same answer? So the way that we're going to solve this, and let me check to see if I put it on the next page. No, we're going to go through and do it right here. So the way that I would solve this is what you have to think of. This is asking you the same question of this as this is. What numbers are a distance of 4 away on a number line? Okay, distance of 4 away from 0 on a number line. So same thing here. It doesn't matter what's in the absolute value. It is saying which ones are 4 away. Okay, so in this case, if this 2x minus 8, what's inside, if that, oops, 2x minus 8, I can set it equal to -4 because that's 4 units away. Or I could take the 2x minus 8 and set it equal to a +4 because that's also 4 units away. And we know that we're going to get two answers. Okay, so there's two different things. So if we take a look on the left-hand side here, I'll add the 8 over. We end up with 2x equal to 4, divide both sides by 2, and I find out that x equals 2. Okay? On the right-hand side, it happens to be the exact same problem as what we had from up above. So rather than resolve this, we already did it here. So in this case, I end up with two possible answers, x equals 6 or x equals 2. Those are the two possible answers that you could have ended up with. Okay? So for example, if I plug 2 back in, let's say I go back and I plug it back in, I would get 4 minus 8 is -4, and -4 is a distance of 4 units away from 0 on the number line, so that works out. If I plug in 6, We get 12 here. 12 minus 8 is 4, and 4 is also 4 units away. That's what these equations represent. They're saying whatever's inside the number line, let's make it equal to 4 because that's 4 units away, and let's make it equal to negative 4 because that's also 4 units away. That's why we end up with two answers when we're talking about absolute value, okay? So if we're moving on, and we summarize some stuff here then, that means with a standard equation, we would normally have two solutions, okay? We would normally have two solutions to that answer. Oop, hang on. Standard equation. Didn't read my own part. In a standard equation, what I'm referring to is not an absolute value. A standard equation just being like an algebraic equation. Most of the time then, you would have one solution to that. But then if we go through and we take a look with an absolute value equation, we will usually end up with two solutions like we just did on that previous problem. Okay? So, the idea being here then, how can we set up to solve them then? Remember that the absolute value of 4 is, or absolute value of x is 4. That means we get two answers that are both 4 units away on a number line. So let's say we try this. Okay? What I would like you to do right now is, if this is making sense, pause the video and try this answer. I've now changed it, still 2x minus 8, but now I've changed it to 6 instead of 4. Okay? So pause the video, see if it makes some sense, and then we'll come back and see if you got it done correctly. All right, welcome back. Let's see what we came up with. So what this is actually saying is, regardless of the 2x minus 8, we want the answers that are 6 units away from 0 on the number line. So I'm going to start off with 2x minus 8, and I'm going to set it equal to negative 6, because that's 6 units away from 0. And then I'm going to put 2x minus 8 and set it equal to positive 6, because that is also 6 units away from 0. And now we just solve the equation separately. Add the 8 over. 2x equal to 2 then. Divide both sides by 2. And I find out that x equals 1. And we'll come back to that and plug it back in just to double check. If I go through on the right-hand side, add the 8 over. Therefore, 2x equals 14 now. Divide both sides by 2. And x equals 7 in this case. Okay? And therefore, if we take a look at these answers, then if I take the x equals 1 and I plug it back in, 2 times 1 is 2. Minus 8 gives me negative 6. The absolute value of negative 6 is 6. It does make sense, okay? So negative 6 is our 6 units away. If I plug 7 back in, I get 14 for an answer here. 14 minus 8 is 6. Absolute value of 6 is also 6. So it does work out. We've checked the answers, and the key idea behind everything that we're talking about is absolute value is distance from 0. And because of that, that means there's almost always going to be two answers, because you've got two numbers that are the same distance away from 0, the positive version and the negative version of that same number, okay? So that's kind of the main idea of this lesson. So then the question is, if we go and we extend it just a little bit, well, what if I now take that problem and I add a 2 in front of it, okay? Or the other example that I'm going to show you here just for a second is, what if I have a plus 5 outside of it, okay? And what I want you to do is, again, I want you to see if you can figure this out. So pause the video, give these two problems a shot, see if they make sense, and then we'll quickly go through those and go from there, okay? All right, here we go. Welcome back. In this scenario, in order to, anytime there's stuff outside of the absolute value, and we didn't have that on the first couple of examples, but now we do. So anytime there's anything outside of the absolute value, we need to solve for the absolute value first. We need to isolate that, get it all by itself before we set up any of our equations, okay? So step number 1 here is, I don't want to, and some students may have thought, well, if I take this 2, can I just distribute it? And the answer is no. These absolute value bars are not parentheses, okay? So we need to get the absolute value by itself. So step number 1 is that we are going to actually divide by 2 on both sides to get rid of that. So that 2 will cancel out, leaving me with the absolute value of 2x minus 8. Now it's equal to 3, and now we're right back to where we were on the previous examples, okay? So that absolute value, now I'm looking for distance away of 3. So here's where I then write my equation of 2x minus 8. Negative 3 is 3 units away, and 2x minus 8 equal to positive 3, which is also 3 units away, okay? And then from there, once again, you would go through and solve for x, okay? Same exact idea when you get to this problem. So if we go through and we take a look at that problem, again, I want to get the absolute value by itself before I start setting up my two equations. So step number 1 here would be to subtract the 5 over. Those cancel. Now I've got absolute value of 2x minus 8 equal to 1, and now I'm looking for distance of 1 from 0. So 2x minus 8 equals negative 1. 2x minus 8 equals positive 1. Okay, those are both 1 unit away, and once again, solve those equations separately to get down to your final answers. Okay, and that should take you through everything you need to know. It's about as difficult as it gets with the absolute value. We might add a little bit more in, but that's about it when you're solving an absolute value equation. Okay. What I would like you to do, practice to learn, is the 1-6 worksheet. And so what I want you to do is come with any questions that you have about the lesson. If there's anything that did not make sense, come to class next time with any questions on the worksheet. Okay, and we will go over those questions. We'll clear everything up and make sure that you are understanding what's going on. Okay, have a good day, and I hope everything is making sense to you.